In this video, I'm going to show you how to build this awesome 3-story aquarium stand. So the first thing that you'll need to do is you'll need to cut 4 boards at 42 inches, which will be your legs. You will then need to cut 4 boards at 10 1/4, so that will be the side here. You need 4 boards at 27 inches for the length. The board for the middle shelf will have to be cut at about 21 inches, but because wood isn't perfect, the inside diameter might vary, so make sure you measure before you cut. What you will need for the bottom supports for the shelf is you will need to cut 1 board at 10 1/4, then cut that in half vertically. You will then take them 2 boards and place them like I showed in the video. You then need to cut the top board at 13 1/4 by 27 inches long. The 10-gallon shelves that I have on the stand, you will need to cut them at 10 by 21. But since there is a slight overhang on the 10 gallons, I suggest cutting the width a little bit bigger. So let's say 10 1/4, about 10 1/2. You're gonna need about 40 screws to complete this build. The screws that I use, while they're not solely intended for structural builds, they should not hinder anything with this project, since they do have a shear rate of anywhere between 800 pounds to about 900 pounds. And I'm using 2 per board, and the shelves on the bottom, I even used 3 on each side to make a total of 6 per board holding the shelf. What you're going to need for this project is 4 2x4x8s. Then you will need to cut them down to size. When doing this, you're also going to want to pick up some screws. I only have 3-inch on hand as of right now, but I recommend going with 2.5, as well as a drill bit in order not to split any of the wood. You want it to be snug, but not so loose that the screw falls out. The next step is to drill pilot holes, assemble it, and we might add shelves as well. When drilling these pilot holes, you can add a line like I did here to help you line up your screw marks. And then it's as simple as lining up your board below, making it square, drilling a hole down into it, taking one of your screws, and just slightly screw it down in there so it doesn't tweak your board or nothing like that. And do the same on the other side. Then you just go ahead and tighten it down and repeat for the rest. Now that we got both the top and bottom assembled, we can go ahead and lay the inside supports like you see here. We are then going to drill 2 more pilot holes on each one of these supports and screw 2 screws from the inside. This is what one side will look like. Now we just got to flip it over and do the other side. For the shelf, for the 10-gallon, I added 3 screws per board, and this part is going to be optional, but I got a 4-foot by 20-inch board. I'm going to cut it to size to fit the 13.3 gallon since it is a frameless aquarium, and I'm not really sure that it's a good idea to have a frameless aquarium on something that is this open, so I'm putting that board to add that extra support, and that is going to give enough left over to add a second board for the shelf down here for a 20 gallon. What? I got the stand built, and it is capable of holding a 10-gallon aquarium. Now that all that's left is to add the top boards, the middle board, possibly the bottom board, and paint. Since I already cut the top board for the last length, I had to add a little inch piece right here, but I'm going to switch to 1-inch screws to put this board down rather than 3-inch, since that would be way too long. So what I have decided to do for the bottom is cut a 2x4 in half, pre-drill some holes on the outside here, and then whenever you slam this board in here, I had to use a piece of wood to get it in here because it's such a tight fit. Drill in through this hole to pre-drill this plank, add your screws, and this is what one side will look like. And then I'm going to add my board on top of that just to give it some support so that it's one stand, because my thought process was that if I add the tank directly onto the floor and then try to level the stand might hit the tank or some weird stuff happen and it not work correctly. And there we have it. It is mostly complete. I just got to paint it and do a few other things and tidy it up, and that's it. This is what the finished stand looks like. This is going to be the back of it because it has the worst board on it. So I think I did pretty good. This board does not have any screws in it because it is pressure fit, so that's not going anywhere. I have to grind down the tips of the screws that are sticking out here. And this is what the bottom of the stand looks like. I have to also grind down these screws here. When grinding down the tips of the screws, you can go ahead and use a file, or you can go ahead and use an angle grinder, or you can go ahead and use a Dremel tool. As always, when using any of these tools, use precaution and take safety measures as necessary. Before you go ahead and paint it or stain it or whatever you decide to do, clean off your surface before doing so. Headset warning. This ensures that you have a clean surface so that your stain or your paint sticks correctly. The paint that I'm using today is this Rust-Oleum Ultra Cover Gloss for this stand here. And it turned out pretty nice on my last stand I built. The next step is to drain this tank and move it, as well as the stand, so that we can put this stand in there and have plenty of new space. Hi, Hazel. So let's get started on that. It is the next day, and I had a long night. I had to go get some of this rubber mat from in town to put on each level. I then had to move the 6-gallon cube tank over here in the corner because it was too big to fit on the 10-inch stand over there. And I still have a long cleanup process. But let's go ahead and get the top tank and some tanks on the bottom. This is what it looks like with tanks put on it. I currently don't have one for the bottom, so I'm going to search some of my Waste Nothing groups and Facebook Marketplace for a cheap one. But I like how the stand turned out. I think it turned out super good. Just as an extra precaution, I went and got 4 L brackets so that I can stick them underneath the shelf here, just to add some extra support to take the shear load off of the screws on the side. The idea is that it transfers the weight from the screws to the L brackets instead, as well as it gives you peace of mind and ensures that any of the weight that you put on the shelf can be held. This part is completely optional, but I'm going to go ahead and add a shelf right here along the edge so that I can set stuff like my Xbox controller, TV remote, and my aquascaping tools. And this is what it looks like with a shelf put on it. Room for the Xbox controller, room for aquascaping tools, and it doesn't look half bad. Tune in next video where we set up this 13.3 gallon aquarium. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. As always, I'll see you in the next one.